Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are going to take a look at the BIM Data Suite and show you how it works, what it can do, and then show you some additional resources for digging in a little bit deeper and learning more about it. But before we get started, I want to encourage everyone to ask questions using the questions panel if you are attending the live presentation. I will be monitoring those as we go, and will do my best to answer those in a timely fashion today, or at the very least, take time at the end to answer anything I missed. And if you are watching our recorded version on our YouTube channel, please use the comment section below. We monitor those as well, and we'll make sure you get an answer to those questions. Alrighty then. Now, for many of you that have been using for Revit for quite some time, you've heard over the years that data is king, right? And a number of firms and individuals are making it a point to try and find various ways to pull data out of their Revit models, whether it's about, we're looking for creating a data lake that has just gobs of information about all the different types of projects we've been working on, so we can compare what was used here versus what was used there, how big this space was versus that space for a particular type of project, various different reasons and for acquiring this data, and then finding different ways to present it or report on it, whether it's a BI template of sorts, Power BI, Domo, the list goes on, right? There's a bunch of different presentation style tools that we can use. So today, what we're going to talk about specifically is our toolkit, the BIM Data Suite, that will help you leverage the data from your Revit models in other ways. How can we get that information out into a presentation style format? So we're going to cover, give you an overview of how the Data Suite can assist in that. Now, so for today, we're going to review the different reports that are available that we provide as a starting point or a template, and kind of start highlighting the type of information that you can get and how that will look in a report. Then we're going to explain the differences in the services that come along with the BIM Data Suite package, show you a bit how each of those work, and then at the end, we'll show you how to get your hands on it, or a trial, or whatever the case may be. But with that, we're just going to do a demo. Right? There we go. All right. Now, first thing I want to show off is the reports, the presentation styles. So there's a couple of different pieces to this as far as the data and how it's presented to you. What I'm showing here is one of two different Power BI templates that we get. So there's two different services that come along with Data Suite that present data for these template files. So the one I have open in front of me here is the Project Activity Logger data. And for short, we like to call it PAL. And this data comes from Revit when you're doing your day-to-day work. So for example, you open Revit, you open your project, you do a few things, you sync to central. That's when PAL kicks in and starts extracting bits and pieces about your model. Now, and those are typically, health checky style data metrics, sync to central times, open times, what views are in the file, what families have been loaded in, things of that nature. So what we're looking at here is an example breakdown of this, and this is offered as part of the install pack. And so what we have here is a very high level of the different Revit files, and based off the projects that I've opened somewhat recently. Tells you what the largest files are, if there's deadlines coming up, which my demo set's a little outdated, so everything's late at this point. And we'll show you how to manage and control that here in a moment. What the most heavily used project files are, who are your top Revit users or contributors, I should say. And a little bit about open times and sync to central times, and that's just right out of the gate. We can dial it in a little bit further and get into the various projects that are set up and defined in the Data Suite toolkit. And here I can find out, the file size and session hour for the different Revit models associated with this particular project, who's doing the work, how much time they're spending in it, what they're working on, or how many things they've changed or modified, edited, right? And then just keep on going down the line. So there's a model summary that does it, types of views, the links that are in the file, a little bit about warnings, potentially different elements used in the project, and on down the line. Performance tab and a performance detail tab for getting more into the weeds. What's nice about some of these is that it tells you information about the user that's working on these projects. For example, if you're sync to central time, you notice you got some stragglers where for whatever reason, most of them are pretty quick, and then every now and again you get one or two that are off the charts. Well, what about this made it so slow, right? What machine was it? What are some of the basic specs of that machine? What was in the model at that moment in time? Is there anything here that potentially would have caused it to be sluggish, right? And you can just click on these little dots and get information about the data from that sync, right? And just kind of keep on working down the line. You can get into the user and, where are they spending their time, and, additional information about the project and the versions of Revit that are being used, and potentially get into it a little bit further, right? So this is the project activity logging example. You have access to do more with this, and that's the beauty of working with data and Power BI, right? So we give you a good starting point, but you've got access to everything. You can create your custom graphs and charts. You can tailor these, manipulate them, change your filters. So it's pretty slick. And this is my collective data set. So I've got stuff all the way back to 2021 right now in this database, up until earlier today. So you can get a very large snapshot of information all in at one time. And obviously you can filter it down by project or by a date range if you'd like. It's kind of up to you how you manage it. The other BI file that I'm going to point out here real quick is our project snapshot exporter data set. The snapshot exporter is another big toolkit in the data suite that gives you as much data in the project as we possibly can, if you would like. Right, so you have the ability to control what it is that you're extracting. Do you want just health check type stuff? Do you want a full model snapshot to get a massive data set for a particular project? But we can get into things like file size. We can start comparing the differences between snapshots of a particular project file, right? So I can set here's all the projects that have been recently taken, and when snapshots were acquired for those projects. So if I go back to, say, maybe this one, I should have a couple of them in here. Yeah. You can look at a date and time and see, and the charts will update. You can see what it is that was going on in the file at that moment in time versus a snapshot from a different date. What's changed, right? Are there more or less views and project parameters and line styles, text types, dimension types on down the line? And that holds true with any of the tabs here. What content is being used is, so this just gives you a way to quickly look at the model and the information contained within for various purposes without having to open the project to dig in and find some of this stuff out. So it's pretty slick. It's a good way to get access to just about anything within your Revit file. And again, this is just a template, the starting point. If there's something you need, like square footages of a particular type of room on a particular type of project, you can create that table or that graph using the data provided over here, as long as it was included as part of your snapshot. And once we get into the filters, I'll show you how that kind of works. But for example, another piece here is if I jump into my families tab, it'll list all the families that are in the project, used or not. And what I can do is if I wanted to find out more about a particular grouping of stuff, like, hey, I've got a lot of detail items. What are these? I can click on that, which will filter, which will effectively isolate that. And over here, it'll give me a list of all the families in that category or categories, because you can have multiple here picked, to find out how many types there are, and if they're even being used in the file or not, right? So type count versus instance count. So right now I've got all these detail items loaded into the project. None of them are being used, right? So this is a perfect way to discover why this may be a bloated file or taking a little bit longer to do things, because there's a bunch of unused stuff in here. But you can really kind of start to dig in a bit, and as far as the loaded families go. We can get into system families. We do a breakdown here, same idea, same format, same layout. What about the wall types do I want to know? Do I've got unused wall types? I do, but I also have a lot that are actually being used. And it's just a good way to get an overview of everything going on in your project. And because you have access to everything, you pretty much do whatever you want as far as comparing and contrasting data points. So again, and whether you use this or not is up to you. Now I'm going to jump over to Revit here really quick and show you kind of how it all works. Now we'll start with Project Activity Logger, or PAL, because that's the easy one. That happens during file open or sync to central, and it runs in the background, so you don't even know it's running. And it's a really easy setup. There's a kind of you call it a license file in a sense, that runs that, and that's just a way for the service to know where the data needs to go, or for basically for your company. And that just makes sure it all sends back to your server, and it doesn't just get stuck on the end user's machine, right? It tells it where to go. But that's it. It just runs in the background. And if you need more information about PAL and the setup and the configuration of the actual service, go check out on our, and I'll point out these links on our YouTube channel, but our YouTube channel has videos that dig in specifically on the Project Activity Logger setup for Data Suite. But effectively, when you sync to central, and I'll show this real quick, there's a folder on everyone's machine called the PAL queue folder, right? And this is what initially takes the data extraction out of the project. So if I do a quick sync to central here, you'll see this. I just sync to central, switch back over, and as it's saving, you can see these JSON files starting to get recorded for, in this case, my Revit 26 session. And when the sync completes, you'll see a bunch of these JSON files appear, and then eventually they'll start disappearing. And that's the service pushing those to the SQL database. And that is where everything gets stored. In a moment, I will show that to you as well, just so you have an idea of what's going on with the data and what it can be done with, or what you can do with it. And this isn't, so yeah, so that'll eventually disappear. Now, for the snapshot service, when you install the CTC BIM suites, you do get the BIM Data Suite ribbon tabs, and that just has, or ribbon panel, not a tab. You get the Data Suite panel on your CTC management tab. And really what we're focusing on here today is the Project Snapshot Exporter. This is the utility that allows you to take a snapshot of a Revit file, or any Revit file for that matter, at that moment in time to get a bunch of data out. If you've seen Model Compare from the Project Suite, it's very similar to that in what it's gathering. The reporting side of it is what's different about the two different utilities, and you've seen that already with the BI file there. But effectively, it's doing the same thing, just pushing it to your database. Now, in this window, it's really quite simple. We want to take a snapshot. This is the default name that it's using. You can change this as long as you're being consistent to whatever you want to call it. And where is the data going to go? BIM Data Suite natively works with a SQL Server environment. We provide you a starting database that you can restore into SQL Server to manage all of the data. I suppose I should probably show that here quick since I'm talking about it now. And you can manage it with your SQL Server Management Studio. And what you get is a database that houses all of the tables for your project activity logging and your snapshot, the snapshots and the data that you've defined there. We give this to you so that you can have a place to put all of the data that you're extracting. And at that point, it's your data, obviously, and it's your database. You can do whatever you want. So if you need to create additional tables to pull bits and pieces of metrics from various other tables, you can do that. You can do any sort of combination of information from within this that you could use, that you could need. It's kind of up to you how you want to set that up. But really, this is just a record of everything that's in your file. So if I did a quick little review on, say, this doc session, and this log doc session is what is being recorded at Async to Central. So it'll tell you who did it, where the file was located, what file it was, the name of it, when it was taken, the size of the file, and some basic information on number of phases, design options, work sets. It's going to let me do this. What else do we got? View counts, group count, family count, instance of the families placed, unplaced family count. The list goes on. In-place families, rooms and space information, all the way on down the line. So warnings, they're detailed warning summaries, just generic counts, kind of depends on what you want, but that's all coming on in here and available within just a standard Sync to Central. What you do with it is kind of your choice, but the same thing happens on the snapshot side. They're two separate sets of tables for two different services depending on what you're working with, so you can organize it and manage it a little bit easier. So this is what the Power BI files are actually looking at for their visuals. They're actually looking to that SQL Server database. All right, now, but it doesn't. So we provide the database to make life a little easier on you. You don't necessarily have to use it for the snapshots. For PAL data, ideally, that's what you would want to use, is the SQL Server database, because it's automatically posting that information to the database. But in theory, you don't have to use that. You could take that JSON information and try to put that into something else to report on if you chose. But by default, it's set up for SQL. You could also do a similar thing down here within your snapshot exporter. You can specify either an XML file, a JSON file, or you can use our CTC model compare file for this as well. What's nice about using this model compare is that we can also push a model compare snapshot into the SQL Server database if you need to, right? Because sometimes you can take a snapshot using model compare, and that's great and that's fine and dandy, and you can do your in-session comparisons. But maybe you've done a bunch of those, and instead of taking another snapshot to do the same thing, why not just push that in to your SQL database? So you have that as an option. I typically do both in this case. Just now I have a backup effectively in case my computer crashes for whatever reason. And that's because I'm also working off a laptop, so not off of a production workstation. But where the real customization piece component to this is up in the filters. So by default, if you just installed the data suite with the snapshot utility and hit go, you're going to get a full snapshot. And a full snapshot is something that looks a little like this. Now, mine's not quite a full snapshot because I've been messing with my settings a little bit. So I'm going to refresh this. A full snapshot is every single category that's in Revit, every single family type, family instance, each individual parameter and value within those families, everything that there is about every single little possible component that you could place, including boundary and coordinate positions and sizes and coordinate points and everything like that. You name it, it's here. You're going to get it in a full snapshot. Now, depending on the size of the project and the amount of data and the number of links and all that good stuff, that's a lot of data. So you have the ability to customize this. You don't have to take a full snapshot every single time. We provide two filtered setups for you. One is the full snapshot that I just loaded, but the other one is a health check snapshot. This health check snapshot just basically scans the project for your content and looking for area and the category, who made it, but we're trying to keep it lighter and for health check purposes only. Design options, work sets, loaded families and unused versus used, rooms and spaces and areas, and are they placed or not? Are there redundancies or duplicates and whatnot? Checking for warnings and all that good stuff, right? So that's what the full health check or the optimal health check snapshot filter is for. But if you don't want either of those and you just want your own, right? You're never going to be drawing, maybe you're an architectural and you're never working with any of the structural stuff. Why spend the time analyzing the structural stuff if you don't care about it, right? So we can pull some of that out of your reports and take it out of the snapshot. And maybe on the flip side, maybe you're structural, but you don't care about some of the architectural stuff, right? Vice versa. You can set that up accordingly just by simply unchecking this include all box and hitting edit. And at this point, you can start removing things from your list. So right now, or you can switch it around and only add what you care about. So if I did a remove all, for example, now I can grab my boundary lines. I can grab my air terminal groups. I can skip my alignments and analytical members, and maybe I want to get into my area tags, assemblies and tags, my AV stuff, and so on. And you can just kind of go down the line here. Maybe you don't want the bridge stuff, but here we need cable trays, and we'll go all the way down through casework, color fills, columns. Let's just go all the way through to here, and you get the idea, right? You can just start adding stuff that you need when you need it. Design options. If you add them out of order, you missed one, you come back and add it later. That's fine. You're not going to miss out on anything. There's some analytical stuff that maybe I don't need, but I do want those. And let's just grab that. And I'm just kind of arbitrarily picking some categories here that may be important. Model group, detail groups, those are certainly important. Here's some more structural. We'll grab my zones, and we'll grab my mechanical and medical. We'll grab the fab stuff, the piping, and project information, plumbing, and then project information. And then we'll just call it good for now. And then you can hit OK. And then what about this data do you want? Do you want everything about the family and its instances, what groups it's in maybe, all the way down to the parameter definitions and values? Or do you not need the all instance properties and type properties? Maybe just the base family level values. You can choose that. Do you need to know information about the phases of the project and the line patterns and subcategories. There's this thing in here called slow parameters. What are slow parameters? There's a button here. Click on that. It'll tell you. It's a lot of coordinate points and bounding boxes and such. But really, a slow parameter is just what Revit what is really just slow, right? And if you hover over this, I believe one of these told me which one. Oh, it's right here in the window. If you click slow params down here, it'll tell you. And this is just what takes Revit a while to report on, right? And that's what makes it slow, if you will. So if this is a list of everything that is considered a slow parameter in Revit. So if you want to include some of those, but maybe not all of them, you can leave this box checked and then customize the list over here in the bottom right by clicking edit and then pick and choose what you do want to extract. Or you can grab everything. It's kind of up to you. So, and then on the where to search tab, you pick what level you want, what phase you want, or potentially what views you want, and design options. So I'm just going to leave these as is, but you could theoretically uncheck a box and click the edit buttons to pick levels, or specify the phase name here, or click browse. It'll give you a nice little drop down to choose from. Or same thing, pick the view or just the active view, right? So I'm just going to do everything. And at this point, I can hit go, right? This is my the service that's housing or that's managing the snapshot export and the snapshot extraction. I can hit begin, and it will begin the process of extracting the information and pushing it out to my SQL Server. I could also not run it now, but in my filters library, I can save this as its own configuration, and then I can set up a schedule to run that. So I have the ability to specify saved configurations or saved filter sets and specify then where they're going. And do I want any other bits of information here, right? And I can pick and choose all of that and schedule it to run at a certain time. Do I want it to run once a week, once a month, every night, right? You have that flexibility to specify how often you want to do it. And I'm not going to set one up because it won't run enough in time for us to really matter. But and then so you can set up the configuration and then go into the scheduler to specify the frequency. So it's a two-step process for the scheduling aspect. Pick your config, which really just defines what the settings are and what the duration or naming conventions and such. The scheduler specifies when it happens and where if anything, where does some of the extra output go? Then yeah, so there's I will, before I move on, I will mention that there's another YouTube video, that gets more into the snapshot exporter and setting up various filter sets to be used on future projects or on any project for that matter. So what I'm going to do now is talk about one more piece. So we've talked about taking a snapshot. We've talked about extracting some project activity data. If that's all you did and you didn't do anything else, what will happen is they will show up in your BI files in this blank folder or this blank project, right? By default, when you're setting this stuff up, nothing is on a project. It's either blank or project 0, right? And that's just where things go by default. Mine are all right now, because I haven't hit refresh recently, wide open or empty because I've associated things to projects. But if you didn't have something associated to a project, there is a way to map that and to get it defined as part of a project. And the third and final piece to the BIM Data Suite toolkit here is the BIM Data Admin. This is another little add-in that you can install on your manager's machines, at least the ones that should be setting up a project and maybe defining some of the criteria here. And here is where you can set everything up so that your project goes to its own little grouping so that you can dial it inside of your reports, whether it's you're using one of ours or you're building your own. And so you have your default setup where you can add a project, you specify the two real pieces are project number and what office, right? And really offices can be kind of whatever you want it to be. You know, so I'll just do CTC and then my number. We'll call it that. And then there's other bits and pieces of information here for additional project tracking as far as what the name of the project, oops, that's what I want the name to be. And we'll go, what's today's date? 2025.06.19-012.3. And yeah, there's other project tracking information here. And there's ways to take your data from your project management system and populate this so that you don't have to fill this out each and every single time you start a project. You can map stuff to your SQL database to help you populate this list. So if you're using Vision or something like that, you don't have to fill this out every single time. Specifying the issue date is where, I don't know if you remember, but I had the expired projects or the projects that were too old. That's because my issue dates are 10 weeks or 10 years in the past, right? As you can see here. So if I wanted to update those, it's just a matter of editing the project, and I can go ahead and do that. So then there's these other tabs in here for managing already extracted activity data potentially, or snapshot data. So I just added a project for my MEP project. Oh, and I forgot to do one thing here. For this demo file, what folder are we working with here? So when you click add, here's where you specify where the Revit models are stored from, whether it's on your local server, on your ACC or BIM 360 hub. Heck, it even works in Revit server if you guys are still using that. However, you could just type in or copy paste in the file path. Now for BIM 360 / Autodesk Docs paths, it might be easier to do it a slightly different way. So you could try to extract it out, copy paste it out of your Revit Sync to Central window, paste it in here, or from I think your Manage Links dialog box shows it accurately there as well. But that's what I would do. The browse icon is not going to get you to the proper pathing in your docs location, at least as far as what the tool needs and what Revit is using. But it will work for any other server-based location. So that is one way to do it if you want to. Copy, paste, or browse to it here. The other way is to go to these two tabs for project activity editing and snapshot editing and look for unmapped projects or unmapped records. So for example, this folder's not mapped to a project. I should be able to find, and whether I search for it here or just browse for it, because there's a few of these here, I can find the project folder where that is stored and map it. So I know just because I checked this to confirm it earlier, and I can pop into my other, I think it's this one. Nope, it's not that one. But I could go into my Revit file here and go to my Sync to Central, and here, this is where the project is stored. So I could have copy pasted this out and added it manually to the project file path, or you can map it this way. So now I can hit map folder to an existing project. It'll give you a list of all the projects, including the one I just made. Hit OK, add the folder to the project, hit yes, and it'll do it. And now it'll do a quick refresh. And CTemp MEP20 is gone because it just got mapped. There's other CTemp ones here because they weren't mapped, but the other one I wanted to point out is you can see here we have all of our BIM 360 / Docs projects. So what I would recommend, and I have one set up for another project here. Actually, we'll just leave it. If I grab this one, so I open this file, I've got this one open in the other Revit session. I need this mapped, okay? And I can get rid of this. So if I map to an existing project, I want this to go here to my CTC office project and hit yes. And it's gonna map the project. If I wanna make sure that everything's going, I can, in addition to just the file path, we can make sure that the session records are also getting mapped and pushed. So if I were to search for, say, 2026 right now, they're not here. So that means those records got associated or are being associated as we speak if I were to go to the SQL database, which is great, right? So it's once it sees that there's an association made, it's going to start doing the work for you. Same thing on the snapshot side. If you took a snapshot of a file like this one and you need it to be mapped somewhere, tell it where to go, right? And it will go ahead and do that and start updating the document records for you automatically so that you don't have to worry about it, which is one of the nice things about doing it with this app here. Last but not least, well, there's two more pieces that we need to talk about within data admin. Here you can specify what's going to get logged, right? Do I care about what add-ins we have installed in our Revit sessions? And this is tracking all your Revit users. So maybe it is important, especially if you allow them to install their own add-ins. It'd be nice to know what everybody's got. Do we want to check to see if people are running audits on their files? Or do we want to log information about the print that they made? How do we want to log warnings? Do we want to log warnings, right? If we don't want warnings, just uncheck all the boxes. But if warnings are important, check the box that's appropriate. Warnings, just FYI, is one of the biggest tables and the longest data strings that you get. There's a lot of information in the warnings. So summarized warnings is likely enough. The detailed warnings, that becomes a database table that needs significant management then, just because of the sheer amount of data that are oftentimes found in the warnings list within a project. So just keep that in mind. And but this also does work on non-work shared projects if you choose to. Oftentimes non-work shared projects are just for our own internal use purposes. It's not necessarily a real project per se. So you may not want the apps logging that information, so you can turn it off. But if you do use non-work shared projects for actual project work, go ahead and log it. It's good. So you can specify all that here, and then once you got what you need, hit save. Now, last but not least, is the database maintenance. There is a tab here to search through your project activity logger data between a specified date range to see, is there data, for either for a project or all projects, and where's the data coming from? Do I want it, right? This is a way to do some database cleanup, right? Are projects being opened, we're opening linked models detached to do a thing, and maybe someone saved a copy of it, right? That got recorded and will find its way into your database and ultimately into your BI files. If you don't want that, this is where you can go ahead and quickly delete some of that, and it will send the calls back to the database and do some cleanup there, so that you don't have to manually browse through your SQL database and clean some of that stuff out. The tool can do it for you. Same thing with your snapshot data. If you did a couple of snapshot tests and you don't want that test anymore to pollute your charts, yeah, you can filter it out in Power BI, but you could also just delete it from the data set altogether. So you have that ability to delete data records from your database using data admin. All right, and that, my friends, pretty much covers all the different points that I wanted to talk about today. Is within the BIM Data Suite kit itself. We had our BIM Data Admin. We had the Project Activity Logger, which is the background service and snapshot exporter. And we talked about the different reports that you can get and where it's all going into SQL before it gets into Power BI. The last thing I want to point out is where you can get some more information about the products themselves. So there's two different places I wanted to take you. The first one, obviously, is our website, ctcsoftware.com. If you go down to products and go to BIM Data Suite here, it'll get you some more information about it. You can reach out if you wanted to get a trial. We can work out getting that to you guys. Just information on the pricing and a little bit more about the apps themselves. What I really care about showing you is information about the toolkit and how they work, right? So there's intros to the snapshots, to the project activity logging, how to install and set this all up, right? It's not a typical add-in install. It's a little bit more involved than that. You might even need to get IT involved, and you certainly should start with having a SQL Server somewhere to restore the database to, so that you can at least tinker with that and see how it works and if you want to continue with that or not. But there's a handful of videos here that would be extremely useful in helping you get some of that stuff set up. And with that, that sums it up and takes care of us. So I want to thank you all for your time today. It's been a pleasure. And if you have any questions about what you saw today and you would like more information outside of our website and the YouTube videos, you can reach out to us at info@ctcsoftware.com, and we are more than happy to answer your questions and do what we can to get you some more info. Other than that, thanks again, and everyone take care.